Okay, just a teeny tiny disclaimer before we hop into the video. I have bipolar disorder and I have just swung my way out of a depression straight into a manic episode. And so I'm talking fast, I'm moving a lot, I'm not breathing as much as I should be. I just feel very excited and very anxious and very passionate all at the same time, which is both a fantastic combination because it means that I have the energy to film this video and to talk about my things that I love passionately, but also it means that I'm hyper aware of how fast I'm talking. I apologize in advance if there are any mic pops from me suddenly yelling out of nowhere. I apologize in advance if I stumble over my words a lot and I can't edit them out. I apologize in advance if I move so much that it starts to irritate you. Manic episodes are fun, but they're also not fun at the same time. And so I just appreciate you kind of sticking through all of this with me. I'm gonna try my best to not act like that and to make this a fun, pleasant viewing experience for everybody involved, okay? Including editing me, who is gonna have a bitch and a half trying to edit this. Trying to edit me down into a calmer person. Anyway, hello, hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, which you probably are because I think I have like 4 subscribers, so everybody's new. But if you're new here, my name is Maddie, and I have been obsessed with books since I was a child. Been obsessed with BookTube pretty much since I discovered it about, I don't know, years ago. And I've always wanted to have a channel, but I've never had the courage to start one of my own. I've always been kind of weird and shy and strange about it. But I finally decided to start my channel, which means that I can finally participate in one of my favorite parts of BookTube, which is book tags. Guys, book tags are so cute. They're so sweet. Like, not only are we just like a big group of nerds all hanging out and geeking out together, but we're so much nerds and we love to hang out so much that we like to ask each other questions and then listen to the answers. Like, come on. That's so cute and wholesome. I love them so much. We're going to be doing the end of the year book tag. And I know, objectively, it is too late to be doing this book tag. I'm well aware. By the time this video comes out, it'll be early to mid-November, which means that there's not a lot of time left, guys, and December's a busy month. The reality is there's probably about 8 to 10 more books that I'll get in this year if I'm lucky, if I'm trying. On a regular day, it might be like 5 to 6. So not a lot of room for real estate, right? But like I said, this has been a dream of mine for a long time, so just indulge me, okay? So the first question is, are there any books that you've started this year that you still need to finish? And I have to confess, guys, I am a big mood reader. So much so to the point that I start books that I'm in the mood for, and while I'm in the middle of them, I will fall out of the mood for them, and then I will put it down and I'll just never pick it back up. It's a really bad habit of mine, one that I would like to try and maybe break in the future, but also I'm really big into like not making myself do anything that I don't want to do, which includes finishing books that I don't want to finish, because I already have to do so many things in my daily life that I don't want to do. I'm not going to bring that into a hobby of mine that brings me a lot of great joy. So maybe I never will fix this problem. I don't know. Basically, I'm saying all of this to say there's a lot of books that could be on this list, but I just chose 3 of them because I think these 3 are the most interesting to talk about. I think these 3 I have the most to say about. So the first one in that list is Chlorine by Jade Song. This book is about a girl who believes that she's a mermaid, but less in like a, oh, that's so cute, she thinks she's a mermaid, and more like, oh shit, this girl thinks she's a mermaid. Kind of vibes, you know. Our main character, she's a swimmer, she's a competitive swimmer, and she lives her whole life in the water, right? Like, that's the only place that she feels at home, it's the only place she feels like she can really be herself, hence why she thinks she's a mermaid. And early in the book, she gets a concussion, like a really bad one. She dives wrong and she cracks her head on the side of the cement wall, so it's like a really bad like head injury, and she lies to everybody around her. so that she can come back to swimming early. Which kind of perpetuates this concussion that she has. And so from that point on, you can't really tell, like, if she's telling the truth, if she really knows what's happening, if she's hallucinating, if she's in a lot of pain. And so she's, like, becomes this unreliable narrator. Kind of midway through the book, which I think is pretty sick. One day, I picked up this book completely out of nowhere, completely randomly, read all the way to the halfway point in one sitting, put the book down, and just never picked it back up. I don't know why. I was having a good time while I was reading it, and it's one of those books that I'm hoping that I really will be able to finish before the end of the year. I don't know. I don't feel strongly about it, but I would like to. The next book is The Secret Book of Flora Lee. So this book is about a pair of sisters who are evacuated from their home in World War II, I think, during World War II. And they're evacuated and kind of placed into like a safer temporary home until their homeland is safe for them to come back to, right? Obviously this is a traumatic event. Both girls are kind of reeling from it, and in order to cope with it, they create this imaginary world called Whisperwood. They kind of disappear into this imaginary world together, and it helps them cope, and it helps them feel better about the whole thing. Fast forward to some years later, one of our sisters is an adult, and she is working in a bookstore, and you find out that the other sister has at some point disappeared. Our main character feels a lot of pressure and guilt for her sister having gone missing. She feels like it's her fault. And one day she stumbles across a book called Whisperwood, and she is absolutely convinced that her sister is the author, or at the very least the author knows what happened to her sister. And so she kind of tracks down this author, and it's about her going on this adventure, trying to find her sister, trying to figure out what happened to her. And it sounds really good. It sounds really great. I was on a huge historical fiction kick about 3 months ago, and it was the first time I'd ever read historical fiction, and I kind of fell into it, and it felt really cool, and I had this like brief passionate affair with it, and then it kind of fizzled out, and so I just never finished this book. But I do remember really loving it, and I do remember feeling like it was very atmospheric, and it was something that I would really enjoy. So I do plan to finish it. I don't know if it'll be by the end of the year, but I do plan to finish this one. Okay, so the last, technically two, but they feel like one because same author and same reason why I quit it, but they are both books by Carmen Maria Machado. The first one is called In the Dream House, which is a memoir of hers about an abusive relationship that she went through, and her getting through that relationship, her kind of healing, and then meeting the woman who would eventually become her wife. The really cool part about this book is that each chapter is written in this little vignette style that is told through the lens of all of these horror genre tropes. So Dream House as haunted house, Dream House as ghost story, Dream House as, insert horror trope here. And so it's just this really creative way to tell a personal story that I think adds a layer of depth to it that really contributes to the story thematically. And I was having a fantastic time reading through this bad boy, analyzing everything, annotating, all that kind of stuff. The second book is Her Body and Other Parties, which is a collection of short stories that are all about womanhood and girlhood and growing up in society, and how that can be kind of like a horror novel in and of itself. I started both of these books and I was loving both of these books, but as a writer myself, Carmen Maria Machado is such a good writer that it was almost intimidating to read the book. She was so talented, she was so fantastic that I would read lines and I'd be like, I'll never be as good as her. And so, I don't know, I was already in a weird mental place anyway, and I really needed books that were going to lift me out of that instead of help drive me down further. And so I just put them down for a little bit. This is definitely just a pause in the books. I will be back to them because they are fantastic, just when I'm in a better headspace and more equipped for it. Okay, so the next question is, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? And I have another confession, guys. I'm not a big autumn girly. I know, I'm sorry. I feel like this is sacrilegious in this community because everybody thinks that books and coziness go hand in hand, and they do. I I just don't like the autumn. I don't like the autumn period. I don't like fall, because it just reminds me of all of the inevitable things that are coming in winter. And where I live, fall doesn't last that long. Like, it's really only like a 3-week period where we jump from the depths of hell that were like 90 to 100 degrees and we're all just sweating and sad and miserable, to the other depths of hell where it's 5 degrees and we're all just freezing and cold and miserable. And so I just fall, I don't know, all the good fall things like sweaters and pumpkin spice and finally being able to layer all of your outfits, like all that is fun, but it just reminds me a lot of all of the really gross, sad, slushy things that the winter is going to bring. Because of this, I don't really read like autumnal books because I don't really know what that is. So I just picked books that like felt like something that I would read at this time, because I do go for things that are a little bit cozier, that are a little bit more atmospheric, that are nice to like curl up with a blanket kind of thing. And the main 2 genres I go for at this time are historical fiction and romance. And so for the historical fiction one, I picked The Forbidden City by Vanessa Hua. And this book, guys, this book sounds so good. It's about the Chinese Cultural Revolution in the 1960s, and which is already just dope in and of itself, but it's told through the lens of this 16-year-old girl who becomes this like protege, mentee, lover, mistress kind of thing to the leader of the Cultural Revolution at the time. And I just think that's going to be so cool, because like you're so close to everything that's happening, but it's also told through this like kind of distant lens of like just a 16-year-old girl who is passionate, is young, will inevitably make mistakes, is probably in over her head but doesn't really realize it yet, but is also probably insightful and empathetic in the way that young people only ever can be because they're young. So I'm really excited to see kind of like that juxtaposition and how that works and how the author manages to pull that off. The 2 romances that I picked for this are both movie reimaginings or like movie retellings or whatever. The first one is You Again by Kate Holdbeck, and this is a reimagining of When Harry Met Sally but gender swapped. And The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston is a reimagining of The Lighthouse, which is a movie that we all kind of agree kind of sucks, but also has a really good vibe to it, and it's kind of comfy and kind of cozy, and I'm kind of hoping that the book has similar vibes. The next question is there still a new release that you're waiting for? And the short answer to this question is no. I don't really keep up with new releases. I'm really bad about it. If the book talk girlies are not talking about it, then I probably don't know that a new release is existing or has just come out. I read a lot of backlist stuff, and then I really just browse places to find what I want to read. So because of that, no, I don't really have one. But there are 2 releases that came out earlier this year that I still have not read, and I would like to talk about those. The first one is Wildfire by Hannah Grace. I do not know what this book is about. I did not read the synopsis. I will not read the synopsis, and I don't need to know what it's about. I read Icebreaker last year when everybody else read it, and I fell in love with it just like everybody else. It has that good, solid sports romance vibe, that good, like, Wattpad flavor, that nice, just, like, obsessive romance kind of trope, or kind of vibe, kind of feeling. And so I'm saving this book for when I am at my darkest days in the winter, when the seasonal depression has slightly won, and all I want to do is lay in bed and just be a little bit sad, and when I need a book to really pull me out of that. So that's what I'm saving this for, because I know that it'll do that for me. The next one is called Lucky Red by Claudia Cravens. So Lucky Red is about a girl. It's a Western novel, which is crazy, and it's about a girl who is kind of just abandoned for like a multitude of reasons, and so she's left on her own, and she kind of strikes off to like the nearest city to try and make a life for herself. But she finds out very quickly that finding work as a woman is hard, and being a woman alone is hard and dangerous. And so she's poor and not safe, and one day she is approached by the Buffalo Queen, which is the only woman-owned brothel in town. And so she becomes like a worker at this brothel, and she falls into it really easy. She finds that the work is easy, she finds that the money is good, she likes the women that she works with, and she likes that she is safe and she is warm at the end of the day. And so she loves it there. She's having a great time until the winter hits and things start to change. I feel like telling you the synopsis of that book is enough to make you understand why I want to read that book. It's feminist, it's badass as hell, it's about a woman-owned brothel, and it's queer. So you're welcome for putting that on your radar. The next question is, what are 3 books that you still need to read before the end of the year? Obviously, Lucky Red. This one is definitely going to be read this year. I'm reading some other stuff for some other videos, so this is on the back burner, but there is no way that I will not devour this and love this. The next one is Forbidden City, just because I think it's going to be really, really impressive, and I think I'm going to be shocked. No, I don't think I'm going to be shocked. I think I'm going to be in awe of this book and everything that it manages to pull off, and I really, really want to see what that's like, how that goes. And then obviously Wildfire is the last one, for all of the reasons that I stated before. I think these 3 books are really the only 3 books that I feel confident will be read by the end of the year. The next question is there still a book that you think could shock you and become your favorite of the year? As excited as I am for all of the books that I talked about today, the answer to this question is no, and I'm very confident about that. I found my favorite book back in August, and I've never been the same since. It touched me in a way that only a book that is well written, that is written almost like it's specifically written for you, can do. It was just fantastic. I fell in love with it. I was simultaneously comforted and jealous of all of the people in the book. I was desperate to live life like they lived, but also so happy just to be there and just to be a part of it. It made me cry, it made me laugh. It was just so good. It was just fantastic. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, because you should watch my end of the year video when I talk about all of my favorites, and then you'll know what it is. The last question is, have you started making reading goals for 2024? I have one last confession to make. I actually don't ever make reading goals. Reading is just a hobby of mine. It's always been a hobby that I've had forever, and so I just kind of do it when and as I feel like doing it. But since I started my booktube channel, I have to kind of crack down a little bit, and I have to start tracking things. I have to start, keeping track and doing the whole things for all of the content, And so I really do need to start making some goals and start giving this hobby like a pathway to follow. You know what I mean? Some structure. So I decided to go ahead and just make some now. Or specifically for this video. I made them last night, but specifically for this video. The first one is just a regular standard book goal. I would like to read 60 books next year. Like I said, I don't really track my reading. I don't really know how much or how little I read. I just kind of pick things up when I feel like it. I read, when I can. Sometimes I fall out of love with reading, sometimes I fall back in with it. And so I just picked 60 because it felt like a good number. It felt achievable. It felt like maybe about how many I've read this year. And yeah, it just felt right. The second one is that I want to start reading more nonfiction. Nonfiction scares me, like I feel it scares most other people. It's definitely residual trauma from high school and college when I had to read a lot of nonfiction that A, I didn't want to, and B, I had to pass a test over after it was done. And so now every time I look at a nonfiction book, I'm so excited about it, but I always feel like I'm not gonna get enough from the book to pass the test that's coming afterwards, even though there's no test afterwards. And it really bothers me because I feel like nonfiction is something that I could really jive with. I just feel like it's something I would really love. I love learning about really specific things. I love learning about really niche topics. I love when experts share their knowledge and their wealth of information in this like accessible, cool way for like the layman to figure out, you know? So it sounds like nonfiction would be right up my alley. I'm just too scared to do it because I'm afraid I'm going to fail. And how do you fail reading a book? You can't, but that's how my brain works. The last goal is just that I would like to read more shorter books next year. I have this really nasty, really toxic belief that short books are just not as substantive as longer books. Like, they're not going to give me enough or provide me with enough to feel like accomplished having read them, to feel pride over having read them. A lot of really weird, toxic stuff that I don't know where that came from. And I would really like to work through that this year because I know objectively that it is much harder to write a short book than it is to write a long book. To build a world, to develop characters that are well-rounded and interesting and relatable or likable, or at least interesting enough to want to be read about, creating a plot that makes sense, that doesn't have plot holes, and then developing themes around all of that is objectively a lot harder to do when you have less space to do it. I know that. I'm very aware of that fact. But for some reason, I just don't feel like, I don't know, I just don't feel like they're good enough. It's just so terrible to think about and to say out loud. But that is, like, it definitely clouds my reading choices. I definitely pick books that are longer, like, subconsciously, consciously, all the time. And I would really, really like to get over that because there's a lot of shorter books that I feel like could really be amazing and fantastic, and I am doing myself a disservice by not reading those, you know? And so since 2024 is the year of unpacking book trauma for me, I thought, why not add this in there, you know? Alright, you guys, that's it. Thanks so much for indulging me and letting me finally participate in something that I've always wanted to participate in. I give you all the love in my heart for it. Thank you. If you guys could do me a huge solid and like the video if you enjoyed it, and in the comments below tell me what your favorite book tag is, and maybe I'll do it. That would be so fun. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe, do that whole thing, and I will see you guys somewhere else on the internet. Okay, bye.